Cop dunks black female recruits head in toilet, went pale learn her name same as the commissioner. Young men and women in uniforms carried duffel bags, notebooks, and a mixture of nervous energy and excitement. Some were chatting nervously with their peers, while others walked silently, focusing on the day ahead. Among them was a young woman named Jasmine Carter. She moved with quiet confidence, her steps steady and her posture straight. She had dreamed of becoming a police officer since she was a child, inspired by stories of bravery, fairness, and helping people in need. Jasmine had grown up hearing her mother speak about justice and her father, Commissioner Carter, instilling the values of discipline and respect. Though she was proud of her family, she wanted to make her own mark. Today, stepping into the academy, she felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. She knew this journey would be challenging, but she was ready. The academy was known for its strict instructors and tough training programs. Recruits were tested both physically and mentally. It wasn't just about strength or speed. It was about resilience, patience, and the ability to stay calm under pressure. Jasmine was aware that this environment could be harsh, but she believed that with determination and focus, she could succeed. Her first class began in a large lecture hall. Rows of recruits filled the seats, and the room buzzed with the sound of whispering voices. At the front of the room stood Sergeant Mitchell, a man with a stern face and sharp eyes that seemed to miss nothing. He had years of experience and a reputation for being extremely tough, especially with new recruits. Some whispered among themselves that he had a temper and that many recruits struggled to gain his respect. As soon as Sergeant Mitchell addressed the room, the atmosphere shifted. His voice was deep and commanding, and every word seemed to demand attention. "Welcome to the academy," he said. "This is where you will be tested, not just your strength, not just your speed, but your character. Some of you will find this difficult. Some of you may fail. And some of you will surprise even yourselves." Jasmine listened carefully. She knew she had to remain focused. She had prepared for this moment for years. She had trained physically, read about law enforcement techniques, and practiced mental exercises to stay calm under stress. But nothing could fully prepare her for the intensity of Sergeant Mitchell's scrutiny. The first physical exercise began outside. Recruits were lined up on the training field, ready for a drill that would test their endurance and teamwork. Jasmine felt the cool morning air on her face and took a deep breath, centering herself. She observed the other recruits around her, some eager, some anxious, all unsure of what was coming next. Sergeant Mitchell walked along the line, inspecting each recruit closely. When he reached Jasmine, he stopped and looked her over. "You," he said sharply, "make sure you keep up. Don't think I will go easy on you because of your size or your gender." Jasmine met his gaze steadily. "Yes, Sergeant," she replied. There was no hesitation in her voice, only determination. The drills began. Recruits ran laps, performed push-ups, and practiced tactical movements. Jasmine worked hard, keeping pace with the others. She knew that any sign of weakness could be noticed, and she refused to give Sergeant Mitchell any reason to doubt her abilities. As the morning progressed, the physical strain began to show. Sweat ran down her face, muscles ached, and her lungs burned, but she pushed through. She focused on each movement, reminding herself that this was only the beginning of a long journey. During a break, recruits gathered near the benches, taking small sips of water and catching their breath. Some complained about the difficulty of the exercises. Jasmine remained quiet, listening to the conversations but staying focused on her own training. She noticed that a few recruits were already forming alliances, whispering about strategies to impress the instructors. Jasmine didn't mind. She knew her own path would be different. She wanted to prove herself through hard work, discipline, and integrity. After the break, Sergeant Mitchell announced a new drill, one designed to test reaction time and obedience under stress. Recruits were to follow his commands without question, no matter how unexpected or challenging. Jasmine lined up with the others, her heart racing slightly but her mind calm. She had learned to control her fear and channel it into focus. Then it happened. Sergeant Mitchell singled her out. Without warning, he grabbed Jasmine and dunked her head into a toilet in the training facility. Time seemed to slow for a moment. Water splashed over her face, soaking her hair and uniform. Jasmine gasped for air as she pulled her head out, her eyes meeting Sergeant Mitchell's. The other recruits froze, unsure of how to react. Some looked shocked, others hesitant to intervene. But Jasmine didn't panic. She wiped her face and straightened her uniform, her expression calm. She refused to show fear, anger, or humiliation. She had prepared herself for difficult situations, and this was no different. Though her heart pounded and her cheeks flushed, she maintained her composure. Sergeant Mitchell stepped back, momentarily taken aback by her reaction. Most recruits would have reacted with anger or fear, but Jasmine remained composed. She looked him in the eyes and said quietly, "I'm ready to continue, Sergeant." Her voice was steady, unwavering. The rest of the morning continued with rigorous training, but the dynamics had shifted. Jasmine's calmness and resilience caught the attention of other instructors and recruits. Some began to whisper among themselves, impressed by her ability to remain composed under such treatment. She had silently earned a measure of respect, even from those who had doubted her. By the end of the day, Jasmine was exhausted. Her muscles ached, her uniform was damp, and her energy was depleted. Yet, as she walked back to the dormitory with her fellow recruits, she felt a sense of accomplishment. She had faced one of her first challenges with dignity and strength, and she knew that this was only the beginning. That evening, as she prepared for bed, Jasmine reflected on the day's events. She thought about her father's lessons on discipline, integrity, and courage. She reminded herself that this journey would not be easy, but that each challenge she faced was an opportunity to grow stronger. She was determined to prove herself, not just to Sergeant Mitchell, but to herself and to everyone who doubted her potential. Even as she drifted off to sleep, Jasmine's mind remained sharp, replaying the day's training exercises and mentally preparing for tomorrow. She knew that the academy would continue to test her, both physically and mentally, but she was ready. She had already faced one test, and she had passed it with strength and grace. The journey ahead would be long and difficult, but she was determined to succeed, no matter what obstacles came her way. By the end of the first day, Jasmine had already begun to stand out, not because she sought attention, but because her resilience, courage, and determination could not be ignored. The academy was a place of discipline and challenge, but it was also a place where true character was revealed. And on that first day, Jasmine Carter had shown that her character was unshakable. The next morning, Jasmine woke up before dawn. The dormitory was quiet, the soft hum of the city outside her window barely audible. She stretched, feeling the soreness in her muscles from the previous day, but it didn't deter her. Jasmine reminded herself that each day at the academy was a test of endurance, focus, and character. She had already faced a challenge head-on, and now it was time to push further. Breakfast in the cafeteria was a mix of nervous chatter and quiet determination. Recruits discussed the previous day's exercises, some complaining about the physical strain, while others shared strategies to survive Sergeant Mitchell's grueling routines. Jasmine listened politely, sipping her coffee and eating her meal. She didn't feel the need to join in with complaints or gossip. Her mind was focused on preparation and observation. She had learned that in such a competitive environment, staying composed and strategic was more important than reacting emotionally. The morning briefing was led by Sergeant Mitchell once again. His sharp eyes scanned the room as he addressed the recruits. "Yesterday was just the beginning," he said. "Today you will face exercises that will test your decision-making, your teamwork, and your ability to perform under pressure. Mistakes will be noticed. Hesitation will be punished. Success will be rewarded." Jasmine's heart beat steadily, but her mind remained calm. She had expected challenges like these, and she was ready. She knew that every action she took would be observed and judged. Yet, she was determined to meet each challenge with intelligence and resilience, proving her capabilities without drawing unnecessary attention. The first drill of the day was a teamwork exercise in the obstacle course. Recruits had to work together to navigate a series of walls, ropes, and tunnels, helping one another while racing against the clock. Jasmine was paired with a few other recruits, including some who had been dismissive of her the day before. They initially doubted her strength and leadership abilities, assuming that her quiet demeanor meant weakness. However, Jasmine quickly demonstrated her ability to think strategically. She encouraged her teammates, suggested efficient ways to climb the walls, and helped guide them through the more challenging obstacles. Her calm voice and clear instructions brought a sense of organization to the group. Slowly, the other recruits began to notice her capability. Whispers of admiration spread through the team, though no one openly admitted it yet. Sergeant Mitchell watched from a distance, his expression unreadable. He had expected hesitation or complaints from Jasmine, but instead he saw determination and poise. Though he didn't show it, a flicker of frustration passed through him. He was used to intimidating recruits, and it was rare to encounter someone who refused to be rattled. Jasmine's composure challenged his authority in a subtle but undeniable way. After the obstacle course, recruits moved on to classroom training. Here, they learned about law enforcement procedures, ethics, and community engagement. Jasmine took detailed notes, asking thoughtful questions when appropriate. She understood that being a good officer required more than physical skill. It required intelligence, empathy, and the ability to make sound judgments under pressure. During a group discussion about handling difficult community situations, Jasmine spoke confidently. She emphasized the importance of listening first, understanding the situation, and responding with both firmness and fairness. Some recruits nodded in agreement, while others seemed surprised at the maturity of her perspective. Sergeant Mitchell made a note to himself. This young woman was not just physically capable, but mentally sharp as well. The afternoon brought another challenge: firearms training. Recruits practiced precision, safety, and control under the watchful eyes of the instructors. Jasmine approached the range with focus. She carefully followed every instruction, her hands steady and her aim true. Her performance caught the attention of one of the senior instructors, who quietly praised her technique. Jasmine didn't seek recognition, but she felt a quiet satisfaction in knowing that her hard work was paying off. Evening approached, and the recruits were exhausted. Muscles ached, minds were tired, and tensions ran high. Some recruits complained, while others silently endured. Jasmine, however, took a moment to reflect on the day. She had faced challenges, earned small victories, and maintained her composure in the face of intimidation. She understood that resilience was not about avoiding hardship, but about confronting it with courage and grace. Back in the dormitory, whispers about Jasmine's abilities began to circulate. Some recruits who had been skeptical started to recognize her determination and intelligence. Even those who had doubted her physically found themselves impressed by her skill and composure. Jasmine didn't seek approval, but she couldn't help but notice the subtle shift in how others treated her. She remained humble, knowing that true respect was earned through consistent action, not words. That night, Jasmine's thoughts returned to Sergeant Mitchell. She recalled the incident with the toilet and how she had managed to stay calm despite the humiliation and shock. She realized that her response had been a turning point. By maintaining her composure, she had shown not only her resilience, but also her understanding of the larger environment. She knew that reacting with anger or fear could have made things worse. Her father had always emphasized the importance of self-control, and she had applied that lesson perfectly. Sleep came slowly, as Jasmine's mind replayed the events of the day and anticipated what challenges might come next. She knew that each day at the academy would bring new obstacles, and she was determined to face them head-on. She understood that respect was not freely given. It had to be earned through consistent demonstration of skill, intelligence, and character. The following morning, Jasmine returned to the training field with renewed determination. She had learned from the previous day's experiences and was ready to apply those lessons. Sergeant Mitchell greeted the recruits with his usual stern expression, but Jasmine noticed a subtle difference. There was a hint of hesitation in his voice when he addressed her, as if he were reconsidering his assumptions. The drills of the day included endurance runs, defensive tactics, and scenario-based exercises designed to simulate real-life situations. Jasmine approached each challenge with focus and determination. She remained calm under pressure, using her intelligence and training to make quick, effective decisions. Her performance was consistently strong, drawing quiet admiration from both instructors and peers. One particular exercise involved navigating a simulated emergency situation. Recruits had to respond quickly, assess the scenario, and make split-second decisions. Jasmine's group faced a complex scenario involving multiple obstacles and simulated victims. She took the lead, guiding her teammates through the scenario with clarity and precision. Her calm demeanor and clear instructions ensured that the group completed the exercise successfully. Sergeant Mitchell observed closely, his sharp eyes taking in every detail. He had faced many recruits in his career, but few had demonstrated the combination of physical skill, mental acuity, and composure that Jasmine displayed. He began to recognize that his usual methods of intimidation were ineffective with her. She was not only capable, but also confident in her abilities, a combination that demanded respect. As the day progressed, the tension within the academy shifted. Recruits who had been dismissive of Jasmine began to acknowledge her capabilities. They saw that she was not only skilled, but also resilient and composed under pressure. Her quiet strength began to influence the dynamics of the group, inspiring others to focus and perform at their best. By the evening, Jasmine was physically exhausted but mentally invigorated. She had faced another day of rigorous training, earning the respect of her peers and silently challenging the assumptions of her instructors. She reflected on the lessons learned, understanding that perseverance, composure, and intelligence were just as important as physical strength in becoming a successful police officer. As she prepared for bed, Jasmine felt a sense of pride and accomplishment. She had faced adversity, maintained her dignity, and continued to excel despite challenges. She knew that the road ahead would be difficult, but she was ready. Each day at the academy was an opportunity to grow stronger, to learn, and to prove herself. She understood that respect was earned through consistent action, and she was determined to continue earning it, one day at a time. Jasmine drifted off to sleep with a clear mind and a focused heart. She had survived the challenges of her second day, and she was prepared to face whatever came next. She knew that the academy would continue to test her limits, but she was confident in her ability to overcome obstacles with resilience, intelligence, and unwavering determination. The days at the academy grew increasingly challenging. Jasmine Carter had now settled into a rhythm, balancing the grueling physical exercises with the intense classroom sessions. Every morning, she rose before dawn, her muscles aching from the previous day's drills, yet her determination never faltered. She understood that success at the academy required more than physical strength. It demanded intelligence, focus, and resilience. Sergeant Mitchell, once a constant source of intimidation, had begun to show subtle signs of caution around her. It wasn't obvious at first, but Jasmine noticed it. He no longer singled her out for unnecessary punishment, though his sharp eyes still watched her every move. She had learned that respect in such an environment was often earned quietly, through consistent performance and composure. One afternoon, the recruits were given a new assignment. They were to participate in scenario-based training that simulated real-life situations officers might face in the field. Jasmine's group was tasked with responding to a complex scenario involving multiple victims and a suspect who needed to be apprehended without causing harm. As the exercise began, Jasmine quickly assumed a leadership role, directing her teammates calmly and efficiently. She assessed the situation, identified the potential risks, and made clear, decisive decisions. Her teammates followed her instructions, impressed by her ability to remain composed under pressure. Even Sergeant Mitchell watched with an unreadable expression, taking note of her skill and poise. After the exercise, recruits gathered in the classroom to review their performance. Jasmine listened carefully as the instructors discussed what went well and what could be improved. She took detailed notes, reflecting on her own decisions and considering how she could perform even better in future scenarios. She understood that every opportunity to learn and improve was valuable, and she was determined to make the most of it. Later that evening, Jasmine returned to the dormitory, exhausted but satisfied. As she unpacked her gear, she overheard two recruits whispering about her. They mentioned how she had remained calm during the earlier drill, how her leadership had helped the team succeed, and how Sergeant Mitchell seemed unusually careful around her. Jasmine smiled quietly to herself. She didn't need approval from others, but it was encouraging to see that her efforts were being recognized. The next morning brought another surprise. Jasmine was called to the office of one of the senior instructors for a routine evaluation. She entered the room with her usual calm demeanor, ready to demonstrate her knowledge and skills. The instructor asked her a series of questions about procedures, ethics, and scenario management. Jasmine answered each question thoughtfully, demonstrating not only her understanding of law enforcement principles, but also her ability to think critically and make sound decisions. As she finished the evaluation, the instructor leaned back and regarded her thoughtfully. "You are performing exceptionally well," he said. It's clear that you are not only capable physically but also mentally sharp. Keep up the good work." Jasmine nodded politely, grateful for the acknowledgement but remaining humble. She knew that the academy still had many challenges ahead, and she was determined to continue learning and improving. Later that day, during a routine briefing, a name was called that caught Sergeant Mitchell off guard. "Jasmine Carter," the instructor announced, reading from the attendance list. Mitchell's expression froze for a moment, his eyes widening slightly. He recalled a conversation from years ago about the family of the state's police commissioner, a figure known for integrity, discipline, and strict accountability within the department. Suddenly, the weight of realization hit him. Jasmine Carter was the daughter of Commissioner Carter. For a brief moment, Mitchell's usual confidence vanished. He felt a mix of shock and unease. The actions he had taken earlier in the academy, particularly the incident with the toilet, suddenly seemed reckless and dangerous. The possibility that he had underestimated someone with such connections unsettled him. He knew that any further misstep could have serious consequences, far beyond the academy itself. Jasmine, unaware of Mitchell's realization at that moment, continued with her training. She focused on perfecting her skills, learning from every exercise, and building her confidence. She had worked hard to earn respect through her own actions, and she was determined to continue proving herself on her own merit. Over the next few days, the dynamics within the academy began to shift subtly. Mitchell became more cautious in his interactions with Jasmine, avoiding unnecessary confrontations. He still monitored her closely, but his approach had changed. The intimidation tactics he had once relied upon were no longer effective. Jasmine's calm, professional demeanor had disarmed him in a way he had not expected. Meanwhile, Jasmine continued to excel in her training. Her endurance, skill, and intelligence made her a standout among the recruits. She earned quiet admiration from both her peers and some of the instructors. Yet she remained humble, understanding that respect was earned through consistent action, not through displays of superiority. One afternoon, during a particularly challenging drill, Jasmine's group was tasked with a scenario involving a simulated hostage situation. The exercise required quick thinking, precise coordination, and careful decision-making to ensure the safety of the hostages while apprehending the suspect. Jasmine remained calm and focused, directing her teammates with clarity and authority. As the exercise progressed, Mitchell observed from a distance, his expression tense. He had seen many recruits struggle under pressure, but Jasmine handled the situation with remarkable composure. She anticipated potential risks, adapted to unexpected changes in the scenario, and maintained control over her team. By the end of the exercise, her group had successfully completed the mission, impressing both the instructors and her peers. After the drill, recruits gathered to debrief and discuss their performance. Jasmine listened carefully, reflecting on the exercise and considering ways to improve. She asked thoughtful questions, demonstrating a willingness to learn and adapt. Her peers began to see her not just as a capable recruit, but as someone who could lead and inspire others. As the week progressed, Jasmine faced a series of tests designed to push recruits to their limits. She endured long hours of physical training, intense classroom sessions, and challenging scenario exercises. Through it all, she remained composed and focused, consistently performing at a high level. Her determination and resilience began to set her apart, earning her respect quietly but steadily. One evening, as the recruits returned to the dormitory after a long day, Jasmine reflected on her journey so far. She had faced challenges, intimidation, and rigorous training, yet she had remained true to her values and her goal of becoming a police officer. She realized that her ability to stay calm under pressure, think critically, and maintain her dignity had been key to earning respect in the academy. The following morning, Mitchell approached Jasmine quietly during a break. He spoke in a controlled, measured tone, avoiding the harshness he had previously displayed. "You have shown remarkable skill and composure," he said. "I underestimated you, and I will not make that mistake again." Jasmine nodded politely, acknowledging his words without showing arrogance. She had learned long ago that respect was earned through consistent action, not through confrontations or arguments. The realization of Jasmine's identity as Commissioner Carter's daughter had changed the way Mitchell interacted with her, but it did not diminish her achievements. She continued to perform at a high level, demonstrating that her success was due to her own abilities, preparation, and determination, not her family connections. As the academy days continued, Jasmine faced new challenges that tested her endurance, intelligence, and leadership. She navigated difficult scenarios, performed demanding physical exercises, and demonstrated her ability to think strategically under pressure. Each success reinforced her confidence and further solidified the respect she had earned from her peers and instructors. By the end of the week, Jasmine had become a recognized figure within the academy. Her composure, intelligence, and skill had earned her a quiet but undeniable reputation. Even those who had once doubted her began to acknowledge her capabilities, and Sergeant Mitchell's cautious approach underscored the shift in dynamics. Jasmine's journey had reached a turning point, where her actions and character spoke louder than any intimidation or preconceptions. Through all of this, Jasmine remained humble and focused on her ultimate goal. She understood that the path to becoming an effective police officer required continuous learning, discipline, and resilience. She embraced each challenge as an opportunity to grow stronger, knowing that true success came from perseverance and dedication. By the end of Part 3, Jasmine had not only survived the rigorous training and intimidation at the academy, but had also begun to quietly command respect. The revelation of her family connection had added a new layer of tension, particularly for Sergeant Mitchell, but Jasmine's achievements were entirely her own. She had demonstrated that courage, intelligence, and integrity were more powerful than fear or bias. The final weeks at the police academy had arrived, and the atmosphere was thick with tension, excitement, and anticipation. Jasmine Carter moved through the academy with confidence and purpose. She had faced countless challenges, endured grueling exercises, and earned the respect of her peers and some instructors. The earlier intimidation and obstacles had only made her stronger, sharpening her resolve and reinforcing her commitment to becoming an outstanding police officer. Every morning, she rose before dawn, stretching her tired muscles and mentally preparing for the day ahead. The previous weeks had tested her in ways she had never imagined. She had learned to stay calm under pressure, to think quickly, and to lead with integrity. Each test, each drill, and each scenario had pushed her to grow, not only as a recruit, but as a future officer who could inspire confidence and trust. Sergeant Mitchell still observed her closely, but the tension between them had shifted. There was no longer the harshness that had marked their first encounters. Instead, his approach had become careful, almost hesitant. He had realized that Jasmine was not someone to intimidate or underestimate. Her resilience, intelligence, and composure had earned her quiet authority within the academy. Mitchell had learned, in his own way, a valuable lesson. Respect must be earned, and appearances can be deceiving. One of the final tests at the academy was a multi-day simulation designed to replicate real-life law enforcement challenges. Recruits had to respond to complex scenarios, solve problems quickly, and work together as teams. Jasmine's group was tasked with a high-stakes exercise involving a simulated hostage situation. The scenario was designed to test leadership, decision-making, and teamwork under extreme stress. From the start, Jasmine assumed a natural leadership role. She calmly assessed the situation, delegating tasks to her teammates while keeping a close eye on the simulated threats. Her clear instructions and steady voice inspired confidence in her group, even in moments of tension and uncertainty. She anticipated potential obstacles, adapted to sudden changes, and made quick, effective decisions. The exercise was intense, and some recruits faltered under the pressure, but Jasmine's composure and guidance ensured the team completed the mission successfully. After the simulation, the instructors gathered the recruits for a debriefing. They reviewed performance, praised effective teamwork, and identified areas for improvement. Jasmine listened attentively, taking notes and asking insightful questions. She sought not only to understand what she had done well, but also how she could improve. Her focus on continuous learning and self-improvement impressed the instructors, who noted her maturity and dedication. Word of Jasmine's performance spread quickly among the recruits. Even those who had doubted her abilities began to recognize her skills, resilience, and leadership. She had proven that she was capable not only physically, but also mentally and emotionally. Jasmine's calm determination had earned her respect quietly but effectively, leaving no doubt about her capabilities. One afternoon, during a routine physical training session, Jasmine faced an obstacle that tested both strength and strategy. A challenging course required recruits to climb walls, maneuver through tight spaces, and maintain balance on unstable surfaces. Jasmine approached each obstacle methodically, using technique and focus rather than brute force. Her performance was flawless, and her teammates watched in admiration. Sergeant Mitchell observed from a distance, his expression unreadable but thoughtful. He had spent weeks testing and intimidating recruits, but Jasmine had consistently defied his expectations. Her ability to remain composed, solve problems efficiently, and inspire others had set her apart. Mitchell realized that his earlier assumptions had been entirely wrong. Jasmine's skill and resilience were entirely her own, and they demanded acknowledgement. The Academy's final evaluation approached, a comprehensive assessment of physical ability, strategic thinking, and leadership potential. Jasmine knew that this evaluation would be the ultimate test of everything she had learned. She felt the familiar mix of nerves and excitement, but reminded herself that preparation, focus, and composure would carry her through. On the day of the evaluation, recruits were divided into teams and given a series of complex scenarios. Jasmine's team faced a particularly challenging simulation involving a multi-layered emergency. The exercise required careful coordination, quick thinking, and precise execution. Jasmine led her team calmly, delegating tasks effectively and anticipating potential complications. Her clear guidance and steady presence ensured that her team completed the scenario successfully, demonstrating both competence and confidence. After the evaluation, recruits were called to the Academy's main hall for the final ceremony. The air was charged with anticipation. Families and instructors gathered to witness the graduation of the new officers. Jasmine stood among her fellow recruits, reflecting on the journey she had undertaken. She remembered the challenges she had faced, the grueling exercises, the intimidating instructors, and the moments of doubt. She thought about the resilience and focus that had carried her through and the quiet determination that had earned her respect. As the ceremony progressed, names were called for recognition. Jasmine's name was announced, and she stepped forward confidently. The applause of her peers and instructors filled the hall. Sergeant Mitchell, standing nearby, offered a nod of acknowledgement, a silent recognition of her achievements. Jasmine accepted the accolades with humility, knowing that her success was the result of hard work, perseverance, and unwavering determination. The ceremony concluded with a final address from the Academy director. He spoke about the values of integrity, courage, and service that every police officer must uphold. Jasmine listened intently, reflecting on how these principles had guided her throughout her journey. She felt a deep sense of pride and responsibility, understanding that her journey had only just begun. After the ceremony, recruits mingled with their families and peers. Jasmine's father, Commissioner Carter, approached her with a warm smile. "I am proud of you," he said, his voice filled with genuine admiration. Jasmine smiled, feeling a mix of pride and gratitude. She had earned her place not through connections, but through her own determination and hard work. Sergeant Mitchell approached quietly, offering a handshake. "You have done exceptionally well," he said. "I underestimated you and I learned an important lesson. Your performance has been exemplary." Jasmine shook his hand politely, acknowledging his words without arrogance. The tension that had once existed between them had dissolved, replaced by mutual respect. As the recruits prepared to leave the academy, Jasmine reflected on her journey. She had faced fear, intimidation, and doubt, yet she had remained true to her values and goals. She had proven her capabilities not through anger or confrontation, but through resilience, intelligence, and calm determination. Her experiences had taught her the importance of perseverance, focus, and integrity, lessons that would guide her throughout her career. In the weeks following graduation, Jasmine began her assignment as a police officer. Her training at the academy had prepared her for the challenges she would face in the field, equipping her with the skills, knowledge, and confidence to perform her duties effectively. She approached each day with the same determination and focus that had carried her through the academy, earning respect from colleagues and the community alike. Looking back, Jasmine understood that the journey through the academy had been transformative. She had faced obstacles that tested her physically, mentally, and emotionally. She had encountered prejudice and intimidation, yet she had remained composed, focused, and determined. Each challenge had strengthened her resolve and prepared her to serve with integrity and courage. The story of Jasmine Carter became an inspiration to others. Her resilience, intelligence, and leadership demonstrated that true strength lies not in intimidation or aggression, but in determination, composure, and integrity. She had earned respect not because of her family connections, but because of her own actions, proving that courage and perseverance can overcome any obstacle. As she walked through the city streets in her uniform, Jasmine felt a deep sense of purpose. She was no longer just a recruit. She was a police officer ready to serve, protect, and inspire. The lessons she had learned at the academy would guide her throughout her career, reminding her that strength comes from within, and true respect is earned through consistent action and integrity. Jasmine Carter's journey had come full circle. From a determined young woman entering the academy, facing intimidation and doubt, to a confident, respected officer, she had proven that courage, focus, and perseverance could overcome any challenge. Her story was a testament to resilience, determination, and the power of remaining true to one's values, inspiring those who would follow in her footsteps.